Something is shifting in the skies above the Arctic, and it is not just the weather. The United States Air Force recently deployed some of its most critical airborne surveillance assets to Alaska for a major exercise. And the timing, the location, and the specific systems involved tell a story that goes well beyond routine military readiness. At the center of it is a 60-year-old platform still being asked to do a 21st century job. And the gap between what it can do and what it needs to do is widening fast. This video will walk you through exactly what is happening, why Alaska has become one of the most strategically loaded pieces of geography on the planet, and what the decisions being made right now mean for how air power works in the decades ahead. In late April 2026, the U.S. Air Force deployed E-3 Sentry AWACS aircraft to Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson in Alaska as part of the Red Flag Alaska 26-1 exercise. The 960th, 961st, and 962nd Airborne Air Control Squadrons all participated. The exercise was designed to test the E-3's performance under the specific conditions that Alaska demands: extreme cold, vast distances, degraded electronic environments, and scenarios modeled on real adversary behavior. Major Michael Dunlap of the 961st Airborne Air Control Squadron described the operational concept clearly. Crews establish an orbit above the battle space, direct fighter aircraft, use passive identification systems to track contacts without emitting detectable signals, fuse incoming intelligence, and provide commanders with a continuously updated air picture. It sounds comprehensive. The problem is what it cannot see. To understand why this matters, you need to understand what the E-3 was built to do and what has changed since. The aircraft entered service in the 1970s as a solution to a specific Cold War problem: detecting Soviet bombers flying low over the Arctic before they could reach North American cities. It carried a massive rotating radar dish, long-range data links, and onboard operators who could manage an entire air battle from altitude. For its era, it was transformative. Alaska, sitting at the geographic intersection of North American airspace and the shortest flight paths from both Russia and China, became the natural home base for this mission. The 354th Fighter Wing at Eielson Air Force Base now operates 54 F-35A fighters. Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson hosts F-22s. Alaska is not just a distant outpost, it is the front edge of North American air defense. What changed the calculus was stealth. In March 2022, General Kenneth Wilsbach, commander of U.S. Pacific Air Forces, confirmed the first known engagement between American and Chinese J-20 fighters. His assessment was direct. The E-3's sensors were not capable of detecting the J-20 at sufficient range to give American fighters a meaningful tactical advantage. He named the solution he wanted, the E-7, a newer platform already ordered by several Allied air forces. That statement, from a four-star general with direct operational experience of the problem, framed the entire debate that followed. It was not theoretical. It was a gap identified in a real encounter. The J-20 is China's fifth-generation stealth fighter, and it is part of a broader modernization effort that includes the J-16, a non-stealth multi-role fighter, whose radar is approximately 3 times the size of the radar carried by the F-35. Russian Su-30 fighters carry comparably large radars. The significance of that disparity is not just about individual engagements. American and Western air forces have historically offset smaller onboard radar apertures through superior networked situational awareness, which is exactly the function the E-3 is supposed to provide. When that network node cannot see what is being flown against it, the offset disappears. The urgency intensified further with an event at Prince Sultan Air Base in Saudi Arabia in late March, when Iranian ballistic missile and drone strikes destroyed at least one E-3 on the ground. The loss of a platform that is both operationally irreplaceable and increasingly difficult to maintain accelerated pressure on the Pentagon to define a procurement path forward. The E-3 fleet has been experiencing chronic availability problems, driven by the age of its components and the difficulty of sourcing parts for systems that were designed decades ago. The aircraft is expensive to operate and increasingly unavailable when needed. Now consider two possible trajectories from this point. In one scenario, the E-7 procurement moves forward quickly. Alaska gets upgraded airborne surveillance capability within the decade, and the situational awareness gap closes before China's first stealth bomber, currently in flight testing as of October 2025 and expected to reach operational status in the early 2030s, becomes operational in meaningful numbers. In that case, the architecture of Arctic air defense holds. In the other scenario, budget constraints, acquisition delays, or political friction slow or stall the E-7 program. The stealth bomber becomes operational. Alaska's surveillance net, still dependent on an E-3 that cannot reliably detect fifth-generation aircraft, faces a threat environment it was never designed to handle. The stakes extend beyond Alaska itself. From 2024, Chinese H-6 bombers began temporary deployments to Russian territory, conducting joint patrols that brought Chinese strategic aviation into the same airspace corridors that American air defense has been tracking since the Soviet era. China and Russia are currently the only countries in the world engaged in serial production of bomber aircraft, and both are integrating new generations of cruise and ballistic missiles onto their existing fleets while developing next-generation platforms. What this exercise in April 2026 actually represents is an institution testing an aging tool under realistic conditions, while the conditions change faster than the procurement system can respond. The red flag exercises in Alaska are not theater. They are the closest thing to a live rehearsal that peacetime permits, and what they reveal about the E-3's limitations is already well understood by the people running them. Watch the E-7 acquisition timeline. Watch how the stealth bomber program in China progresses from testing into production. And watch Alaska, because the decisions about what flies over it and what can see what will quietly shape the balance of air power for the next generation.